Hello. Welcome to Heart and Mind episode 23. Can you believe 23 episodes? I'm Dr. Dina McMillan, and it is going to be really exciting today. I'm glad you've joined me. So let's get started. Now, this show is live streamed every Tuesday night from the US, okay? 8 p.m. New York time, Eastern Standard Time. That's 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. on the Pacific West Coast. Now, if I have people who are avid fans of the show from Australia, so on the eastern coast of Australia, the show is on at noon on Wednesday, and that is 11 a.m. in Queensland. If you're one of my hardy people from the UK, I admit it's on at 1 o'clock in the morning, but thank you for joining me anyway, my UK insomniacs. Now, today's show is really important, but I want to just let you know, in case you're new, in case you've forgotten, I am a social psychologist, and that is not the same as a clinical psychologist. We do not sit around with people on our couches asking, and how does that make you feel? We study how people learn, how they're influenced, how they're persuaded, manipulated, coerced, indoctrinated, and even brainwashed. And when I say we study this, we don't just stand back and look and see what's happening in the world. Look at advertising, for instance, and say, hey, look what's going on over there. We actually do our own experiments as well to figure out how you can change someone's beliefs and behaviors, especially if this can be done in a way that does not reveal your fine hand pulling those strings. So yeah, that's why I always have evil scientists on here, although I'm working with the angels, because I'm showing you what these influence tactics look like so you can keep yourself from being manipulated and controlled by outside forces. Now, one other factor that I do in this show, you'll notice that I'll have slides with images on them. And you might think, is this woman obsessed with PowerPoint? No. The reason for the images is due to something called the picture superiority effect or visual superiority effect, which shows that if you hear information and you have a vivid image next to it or associated with it, you're far more likely to remember the information. So I don't want to just tell you, this is what I learned in school, or this is what I've learned practicing as a social psychologist for the last 20 years. I want you to have this information to be able to use in your life to be able to protect yourself, meet your goals, have the best life possible. Now, speaking of the best life possible, I hope you're willing to support Daily Clout in their historical work by ordering the Pfizer papers. This book took years to put together. It faced a lot of censorship and opposition because people like Pfizer, a very powerful pharmaceutical company, did not want you to know. They wanted to protect themselves and censor this information from the public for 75 years. But Naomi Wolf, Amy Kelly, and her team did not allow that to happen. So if you have a chance, go on Amazon and find out what was really going on behind the curtain. So today's episode is about forgiveness, and I want you to contribute. So you can go to my X site and sign into my live stream. My X identity is at Dr. Dina 1. So it's DRDINA 1 on X. Sign in, and you can actually give me, I see people are starting to bring comments in. Please know, I want you to contribute today. This is really valuable information. However, If we don't get through it all, we'll just do it in 2 parts. We'll just continue it next week. So please don't feel like, oh, I can't say anything because I don't want, to miss that information. Believe me, we're not going to miss anything. So we have a comment from Julie saying, God can do that. Well, that's an interesting comment. God can do what? Forgive us? Yes. But do we forgive those who've hurt or rejected us? I'm going to help you. And anybody, if you'd like to pipe in and give your comments, please do so. I have a friend, my friend Melinda Richards, who's a former talk show host, influencer, successful author. She's going to be joining me a little later. If you want to join me in the studio, please feel free. I'd love to have you. We can all talk about everything. I can have up to 10 people at the same time. And I know this is something that is close to a lot of our hearts, because every time I look up, somebody's saying, well, should we forgive people that have rejected us and hurt us and lied about us and did things, got us fired? We saw all the January 6 people except for DC, which is still having trouble because they're not obeying the law. But we saw the January 6 protesters getting released. Should they forgive the people that lied and held them without due process in jail, while at the same time violent protesters who were supporting Black Lives Matter not only got out of jail quickly, some of them were given payments for their inconvenience? When you see a system that's so patently unfair, can you forgive? Should you forgive? Please, let's talk about it. I want to know what you think. And before we dive into forgiveness, please keep in mind, the closer you are emotionally to the person that hurt you, the more devastating it is. And that's one of the reasons with the January 6 people, excuse me, a lot of them are so patriotic and so believed in the American system of laws. And to see them put in solitary confinement for walking through a building or even not even being there for political purposes by the Democrats and getting away with it, and they're held for years. And if you're in the UK, you're seeing the same thing being done to Tommy Robinson. He's a political prisoner held in solitary while they're letting rapists and terrorists free. They're putting people in jail for social media posts while allowing people who've brutalized other people, if they belong to a minority group, they're allowing them to walk free. When that can hurt too. If you believed in what you are, who you are, the system, it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. But the more emotionally attached you are, the more it hurts. And I want to reference episode 11, where I talked about circles of intimacy. And that's when I'm talking about if the person who hurt you was an individual. Please go to Daily Clout, or you can go to Rumble, go to Heart and Mind, and you can find episode 11. It has some invaluable information for your life. We're going to talk about it a little bit more later. Now, let's be honest. Forgiving someone, whether it's a system or an individual, is easier to do when you're in a situation where you feel like you're winning. So a lot of us who've been on the outs, in my case, for 20 years, now feel like I'm on the team that's actually getting heard, that's winning. So does that impact my willingness to forgive? And what about you? Let's look at all of this. Think about that for a minute. Well, we've got increased tariffs on our trade partners, tax cuts, and regulation changes. Learn why gold is a viable diversification tactic now more than ever. Birch Gold, the only gold company I trust, is releasing their ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. To get your free copy, along with Birch Gold's free information kit on gold, text Daily Clout to the number 98898. Here are the facts. The national debt continues to increase. Our interest payments on the national debt also continue to increase. Gold is still your hedge against a weakened dollar. And Birch Gold is still the company I trust to help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Text Daily Clout to 989898 for your free copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. There's no obligation, only information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and thousands of happy customers, including me, you too can trust Birch Gold. Text Daily Clout to the number 989898 today. Now, when we go into forgiveness, it always helps to know exactly what we're talking about, because I've had lots of conversations with people where we use a common term, and to one person that thing means one thing, and to the other person it means something else. So let's just quickly go through and define what we mean by forgiveness. First of all, it's letting go of any anger, resentment, or disappointment towards the person or the organization that hurt you. Yeah, that seems like a good way to start. And here you see the picture where it says, and her heart finally told her to let it all go. It can be very freeing to let go and say, I forgive that person. I've moved on emotionally from there. It also means treating the person or organization that hurt you with kindness, generosity, and compassion. Okay, let's admit something here. That's kind of a later stage in the forgiveness stakes. Most of the time, we're not quite ready to be kind, generous, and compassionate to somebody when they've hurt us. This can take a little healing before you see it come into play. Now, another aspect of forgiveness is looking and saying, why did they do that? And I can just jump in here and say quickly, we're going to talk about this a little more when we talk about COVID. I have never seen our society, I guess because I didn't live during World War II, I've never seen our society use so much propaganda, get so many people in positions of authority or influence to all encourage people to behave the same way. They were nice to people who complied, and they advocated bullying for anyone who questioned the safety of the COVID vaccines and the effectiveness of the COVID measures that were being put in place. So if you know that and you know how they did that, it can help you a little if you're trying to forgive people who ostracized you during the COVID era because you did not comply. You had better and different information and you said, I'm just not going to do that. And I want you to think about it. Who did you and how did you forgive someone? Can you accept their shortcomings and just say that's how they are? Are you there yet? Another one. Natural disasters are a reality. From Hurricane Helene to the fires in Los Angeles, we're watching catastrophic disasters take out entire towns in 24 hours with minimal warning, resulting in a lack of basic resources. I get it. We're wired to think it won't happen here. Then in a blink of the eye, you're in survival mode. Being prepared in advance is your best defense against the unexpected, and that includes unplanned illnesses. The wellness company's emergency kit completely removes the gatekeeper and subsides panic by providing you with a personalized mini pharmacy in the convenience of your own home. Bacterial infections, staph, bite wounds, UTIs, strep throat, respiratory illnesses. You no longer have to be at the mercy of someone else to help you. The best idea is to have some basic medicines in a safe place in the event you need them. Getting an emergency kit is fully digital. You fill out an intake form and a pharmacist reviews and approves it. Then you receive your kit in around 2 weeks. The medical board approved guidebook crafted by Dr. Peter McCullough and included with each kit tells you exactly what to do. This is preparedness simplified. Invest in your family's self-managed insurance plan. Visit dailyclouthealth.com and use the code DailyClout to save 10% and get free shipping. This is for USA residents only. So thinking about that, did you think about it? Are you ready to accept there may be reasons people behave the way they did, other than just that they're a fill-in-the-blank expletive deleted? Or, as Fred Flintstone used to say on the Flintstone cartoons, ratafratus, natafratus, natafrat. Forgiveness also means, perhaps, giving someone another chance. And we're going to talk in a minute about what giving someone another chance means. It does not mean that you keep them in that same close position where they can hurt you. It can mean giving them another chance by allowing them to stay in your life, but not necessarily exactly where they are, which is why I kept referring to episode 11 in the circles of intimacy. So why should you? Why should you forgive? And I want you to think about this one for a little bit. Holding a grudge is very heavy. And for me, working in mental health, if you hold a grudge, it keeps you in a heightened state. You're just one heartbeat away from going into a heightened state where the cortisol increases and the adrenaline rush goes, and you become very, very focused on whatever it is that hurt you, and it distracts you from everything in your life. It's also linked with depression, high anxiety, anger, and PTSD. So when you're thinking about whether or not you should forgive someone, whether it's a person, an organization, a government, or whomever, ask yourself, who's really paying if I don't? I want you to think about that for a minute. End of January, big things happening, but let's not get totally distracted. How are you doing with your 2025 New Year's resolutions? One of my top resolutions is to focus on my well-being. And we all know one of the foundations of well-being is a good night's sleep. So if I could do just one thing to improve my sleep and overall well-being, it's taking the number one mineral for that, which also helps me with focus, stress levels, and mood regulation during the day. Yes, I'm talking about magnesium. Specifically, I'm talking about the magnesium breakthrough by Bioptimizers. The 7 different forms of magnesium in this supplement are involved in over 600 different biochemical reactions in the body. Pretty much every function in your body gets upgraded when you take magnesium, from the quality of your sleep to your brain function, from metabolism to stress levels. And let's face it, even if your 2025 resolution is not to focus on your health as it is mine, how are you really going to be able to achieve all of those huge goals without quality sleep and stress management? Really? So do yourself a favor and make magnesium breakthrough a part of your daily routine this year so you can get the vitality you need to achieve all your goals and conquer your dreams. Just go to bioptimizers.com/daily clout now and enter the promo code daily clout to get 10% off any order. And if you subscribe, not only will you get amazing discounts and free gifts, I love free gifts, you'll make sure your monthly supply is guaranteed. Again, that's bioptimizers.com/daily clout with the promo code daily clout. Now, here's another benefit of forgiving somebody. It fades your resentment. Now, if you watch the show regularly, you'll remember when I was having all the banging going on because my next door neighbors decided to renovate their kitchen and refused to tell me when they were doing it so I could work around it. Very, very annoying. And when I talked to the husband, he was incredibly rude. So I said I was going to forgive him. And here's the reason. Now, I know you're going to think I'm a bad person, but let's be honest here. I said, if I forgive him for acting this way, try to understand that he's probably spending more than he can afford. He's never learned these skills, which is probably why he has so few friends. Okay. Then whenever I see him, I'm going to feel fine. He's going to feel uncomfortable. If you feel resentment towards someone, every time you see them, hear their name, if you see them getting approval or accolades or awards, it stirs your stomach. You get all upset. That resentment is heavy. So getting rid of that by forgiving someone is heavy. Now, again, I want to hear from you. What do you think about what we've said so far? We're nowhere near finished, but I want to hear what you think so far. Remember, if we don't get through it all, I am more than happy to continue the topic next week because this is really important. As someone who works in mental health, not forgiving those who've hurt you keeps them active in your mind and heart, and it's like you carry them on your back. I know that when I developed a program in the Northern Territory of Australia for a men's behavior change program, one that I was talking to Florida about, I'd like to get back to that, talking to Florida about, I was trying to help these guys realize why them saying I've changed and doing a few nice things was not going to get the forgiveness level and the trust level that they wanted. So I had them all take a stone in their hand and close their eyes and think about an incident where they did something terrible. And then I had the facilitator pass a notebook around, and every guy in the room would keep putting these stones in this backpack. And then after they finished, we did it a few times until the backpack was pretty full. I had them put it on so they could see what the people they've hurt are carrying, so that taking a few of those stones out doesn't keep the weight of that from being overwhelming. And I would say when you resent someone because they've hurt you, whether it's fair or not, you're also carrying that heavy backpack. So one reason for forgiving someone is that it's too heavy to carry it. Also, here's another benefit. This audience would know that the part of the Lord's Prayer that says, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So forgiving others when they make mistakes can get you on the road to feeling you're worthy of forgiveness for the things that you've done wrong. And also, when you forgive, it takes you back to the center. It gives you calm. It gives you focus. I hate the fact that even if it's unfair, even if the harm was considerable. And no, I'm not trying to show this to people who were imprisoned for the January 6th protests yet. However, the faster they're able to forgive and go on, then they can start thinking about, okay, what do I want to do next? And you're walking around and you're in a mood, and all of a sudden a creative idea comes. A lot of that doesn't happen if you're not centered. So being angry and resentful, even if it's justified, can keep you from having the calm and focus that takes you forward in your life. What do you think so far? Let me know. I love sharing information on products I use that really work. So let me start off with a question. Are you ready to move easily and independently without pain or stiffness holding you back? Do you want to look in the mirror and see a plump, hydrated glow instead of more fine lines and wrinkles? Discover Native Path Collagen, made with only type 1 and type 3 collagen fibers, the two most important types that make up to 90% of the collagen in your body. Found in your cartilage, bones, skin, hair, nails, and gut, types 1 and 3 provide maximum benefits without the need for unnecessary fillers. Native Path Collagen is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners. Plus, it's third-party tested for heavy metals, ensuring purity and safety. Completely flavorless, Native Path Collagen can be added to anything: coffee, smoothies, oatmeal, you name it. Its peptide formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes perfectly without clumping. And the best part, Native Path offers amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, including me, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice. Plus, they offer an 800 number for any questions about usage, recipes, or ingredients, and you'll speak to a real person ready to help you. Join their private Facebook community to share success stories, recipes, and support each other in this journey called life. Visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout and start your transformation today. That's getnativepath, getnativepath.com/DAILYCLOUT. Well, joining me in the studio, Melinda Richards. Hi, Melinda. And she can testify that I am the envy of my hair salon because of Native Path Collagen. So it is not just an ad. They are fantastic.
I'm definitely getting some. I've been meaning to get some for a while now, and I'm definitely getting it. So, and it's lovely to see you today, Dina.
It's interesting because this is really, I don't think I could do this show before the inauguration, because a lot of us, like Melinda and I have talked about this, we've both been going through a lot for much longer than 4 years. And Melinda wrote a book, You Can't Say That, about censorship that has been going on for nearly 20 years, the domination of the woke ideology that has suppressed alternative thought, suppressed science, suppressed even just investigating the harms of their policies. You weren't even allowed to look. I have lost, as I've mentioned before, so many contracts simply for not being woke. I try to keep a lot of divisiveness and politics out of my work. In fact, One of my programs, Healing the Rift, I'm now getting requests for, because people want us to actually say, how can we get people with very different values to work together as a team? They weren't really interested in that before. I did do some work with Healing the Rift. It has been, actually used and rolled out, but not as widely as it would have been, because the answer for most organizations was just to force everyone to pretend that they accepted woke ideology and norms. Now that people that are not woke are actually being able to say that that's not what I believe in, that actually causes harm. We now have to figure out, how do we keep things from getting even worse? And Melinda, you sent me a text. It was a tweet that was sent today by someone called Joe, and her address is at JoJo from Jers. And you said she has over 1 million followers?
Oh, she has nearly 1 million followers, I think. I don't know if are all genuine. I'm not sure, but she's definitely very, very popular on X. And I suppose it triggered me when I knew that you were doing something about forgiveness today on the show. It triggered me to sort of let you know that these sorts of vile texts and this kind of hate and this really deep-seated hatred going on with people who have got a problem with TDS, they've been brainwashed, and they can't accept anyone expressing different points of view. I mean, we definitely know the type of person, and she is going next level. But the problem that I've got with that vile next level hate that she's going to is that since Trump won the election, is that she's popular. And so this sort of hate becomes almost normalized. And I suppose forgiveness she's the antithesis of that. She's come out and almost doubled down now and said, F everybody. I'm never speaking to my family again, that voted for Trump. Anyone that voted for Trump, I'm never going to go there. And this is really touches upon the heart of what you're saying, is that if these people ever come back into the fold, with all of that kind of vile abuse and the ostracization, do you forgive them? I mean, can you bring people back into your life? And this is a very, very important topic right now, because this has impacted millions of people. And when you talk about your Healing the Rift program, is it the first step about healing a rift? Step 1A is almost like, well, the first thing I've got to do is I'm probably going to have to forgive this person if they want to sort of come and talk to me about what's happened. They realize they've made a mistake. That's the first step. How hard is it? Depending on what's happened to you, this can be diabolically hard. People will find this very, very hard, I think, Dina, to work through. I can almost see the certain types of people going, that is going to be one of life's challenges from here on, healing the rift and helping people to forgive.
Well, one thing that's happened is that people who adhere to the liberal policies known as the woke have never had to forgive. The official policy advocated by companies, corporations, governments, the media, celebrities, was that all the forgiveness had to be on the part of people who were conservative, who were scientists, who were Christian, who had strong values, even people who were just practical with common sense.
Yes.
When you notice that 2 + 2 does not equal 5, it was okay to bully people who wouldn't give in and pretend 2 + 2 could equal 5 if one of those 2's identifies as a 3. All of the forgiveness, all the tolerance had to be on the part of the conservatives, the practical people, the non-woke people.
Yes.
Part of the lack of accountability, the biggest problem with healing the rift is, and we're going to talk about this too, is that I can help people work together as a team, even if they never admit they were wrong. So we're going to talk about that too. But what they cannot do is bully someone on either side. And I know there's a part of us that wants to get our own back because in my case, as I said, I'm ostracized from my family. I've lost jobs. I watch my woke friends get positions and conferences where I'm actually more qualified and the work I have is actually more helpful to their client base than what my friends have, but they're willing to play the woke game and I wasn't. This woman, Joe, by the way, said, F you to anyone who voted for this effing monster. She's talking about Trump. F you. And to my family who voted for this, F you too. Don't ever speak to me again. This makes forgiveness really hard when somebody would publicly say something so incredibly vile and hateful. What do? Now, remember, one of the things I keep telling you, this show's about you. Everything's about how you can be empowered, how you can have a better life, how you can be stronger, how you can develop a superpower to see things other people miss. Forgiveness, much about forgiveness that we're going to talk about, like me dealing with my next door neighbor, where I've seen him a few times and said good morning, and he looked very uncomfortable. Ha, 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 ha. Okay. I'm just glad I'm not married to him. There you go. Forgiveness is about you. It's not about whether the other person actually deserves it.
That's a
Now,
really important point, though, Dina. I think that's probably been a barrier for me personally. Is when you go to turn the blind eye now, and you want to bring someone back into your fold that wants to come back into the fold, it is about trying to move away from them and put it back onto yourself and be the better person, and say, well, it's a good reminder. It's a good reminder because it is very hard. It's very easy actually to fall into the trap of, well, these people are horrible. They don't deserve it. I don't know. I think that's just a very critical thing for all of us to remember when we're trying to heal that rift and bring people back into the fold, into our lives that want to be there.
Well, let's talk about how you can do it safely without losing your dignity or making yourself vulnerable. Now,
Yes.
Real forgiveness requires soft forgetting, and we're going to talk about what that means. Soft forgetting is just not bringing it up in every conversation. Sometimes people will tell someone, I forgive you for what you did, but every time they get annoyed, they bring it up. That never allows that to heal. That is a pretend forgiveness, and it doesn't work. It keeps it raw. It keeps it painful for both sides. You can't move on. But we're going to talk about what the difference is from soft forgetting to complete forgetting, which I'm not advocating. So please understand that. Forgiveness does not automatically heal the pain and the trauma. I have been so hurt by my family, by the way I've been treated. Even if they decided tomorrow that they were not going to stop with the TDS and they were not going to not talk to me at all because Trump won the election and not ignore me or bully each other or convince each other not to speak to me because I don't have woke values, the pain I feel is still going to have some wounds in there. Even if I have to glue it together, it does not automatically heal it. So don't expect that. Forgiveness is easier if you have empathy. One of the values of me helping you develop and hone this superpower about seeing the strings of manipulation, I've told you before, these tools are powerful and they'll even work on me, and I can write books on this. I have written books on this stuff. But if I'm not careful and I expose myself to these powerful mechanisms, they still work. So when I look at people who have been taken over by wokeism, and I can see all the strings from all the different contexts that have been influencing them to believe a certain way, to ignore logic, ration, problem solving, reality, evidence, right and wrong, a moral code, the impact it's having on their lives. When I see all those influences going there and doing that, it makes it a bit easier for me to forgive. And again, as I said, I always remember the part of the Lord's Prayer, and I know I've made mistakes. And when I get to the other side, and none of us know when that's going to happen, I want to be forgiven for what I've done wrong. And I will not be forgiven if I don't forgive others. So we're going to talk about what it means. Try to understand why it happened. Oh, Melinda and I have talked about this. We look at the COVID stuff. Money, okay, power.
Yeah, why did it happen? You know,
If you look at COVID, you look at wokeism, you look at the advocacy of depravity and deviance and hypersexuality and broken families. Why did it happen? Because people are gaining money and power for advocating this. They want to destroy our society because one of the things that happens, if you're female, the more insecure you are, the more makeup you buy, the more outfits you get. If you look at most women's magazines, all the articles are just fluff. Their whole goal is to make you feel you're not as beautiful as the airbrushed models in that magazine, but we can help you if you buy the products that are advertised on the pages. If you read this article and do these things, magazines like Cosmo, where it's all about turning yourself into a sex toy for a male, I don't know who told people that's empowering. And how do you build confidence and a family around those sort of principles? You just don't. So you have to understand why it happened. And please don't hesitate. This is to my boys, because men are so disinclined generally to get support, to ask for help. Please, it can be a men's group. This is why I believe in men's groups. Women don't have to be involved in everything. You know, the batterers intervention program that I was talking about, that I was delivering in the Northern Territory of Australia, I developed it with the cooperation of male facilitators, and the male facilitators offered it. I was nowhere to be seen, because these men would react differently if they thought a woman was telling them what to do. And they've also found women who are feeling vulnerable react differently with a man in the room, even a nice man. There is a real place for sex segregated spaces. I'm glad we're going to be able to start getting those now, because it's necessary. But for guys, find a men's group, even if it's online and anonymous. Get support and assistance if you just can't let something go. Because while you're holding on to it, it's hurting you, and it's probably having no impact at all on the people who hurt you. You're paying for it, they're not. Forgive yourself for any part you played. Again, it's easier. If you're willing to forgive somebody else, it's easier for you to forgive yourself. But there's a caveat here. Correct it. Do not forgive yourself and say, oh, I was just weak at that time, and you do nothing to strengthen yourself. You do nothing to see, where was I vulnerable? What kind of fixed pattern do I have when I get into those situations where I automatically do something that causes me to yell at my sibling or date this type of person who's always going to hurt me? Forgive yourself, but correct it. And Melinda, I want to talk to you about this one.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we talked about circles of intimacy? In the center is you.
Yes.
And as you go further out, each circle has a level of intimacy, importance, emotional, I would say prioritization. So you start out with the people like your spouse and your kids, and you're like somebody that's your super, I would ride and die close to person. And that's the people in the red. Blue has people you really love, would sacrifice for without hesitation. They're not quite as close as red, but they're people you really love. Same with the gold. Gold is people you really care about and would do a lot for. Those are your close friends. Purple is people you like. You like a lot, spend time with. As you go to blue, blue's more acquaintances, people you like, but if you didn't live near them, work near them, whatever, you probably wouldn't see them again and it wouldn't make that much difference to your life. And then, of course, the white is the strangers, but don't forget the black. The black surrounding is toxic people. So, Melinda, you said something to me before the show about forgiving people, but moving their circle.
Yes,
So
I
what did
really I've always loved this circle, and I remember us having a chat about it previously, and I would love to do the exercise myself as to a pre-COVID circle and a post-COVID circle, because I'm sure they would be I'm sure it would be quite different. And the interesting thing is, it wasn't so much that there was a reduction in the people around me, sort of from 2019 to 2024, over that 5-year period. I think it was more that people will get shuffled around. And I think a good way to forgive someone, but not endure further pain and resentment initially, is to sort of shift them out in the, and maybe mentally push them out to an outer circle, whereas maybe before they might have been in an inner circle. And that's I think this one would be very, very helpful in not ostracizing yourself and doing what they were doing to you, but just moving them a little bit mentally and saying to yourself, I won't see them as much in the future now. I probably won't have as much to do with them. But when we're around each other, we'll start to heal. And this is, I think, a great exercise for people who, particularly with family members, I think really close friends and family members, this is a really great tool, Dina, to sort of help you mentally, get to that next stage.
Well, I would also remind people in episode 11, I give you the questions that you ask yourself about each person
Yes.
in your life, and then you
Yes.
plot them on your circle, and then you ask questions based on how they treat you to see what circle they have you in. And then you
Yes.
see you have each other in the same circle and where there is discord, where it's just not there. I told you I developed this because one of the sisters who's rejected me early on, years ago, I noticed that I had her in a much closer circle than she had me. This is well before she decided to reject me because of my non-woke beliefs. I realized I had her in the blue circle. She had me at the periphery of the light blue circle. So she was basically treating me like an acquaintance. I was treating her like family. And it was causing me a lot of pain because of the imbalance. So I didn't in any way reject her. I just started to treat her differently, because when you do the test, it'll ask you, when you're looking at how you prioritize someone, I stopped prioritizing her like a blue circle person. I prioritized her the way she did me as a light blue circle person.
Yes.
And this
Yes.
also gives you versatility, because it means you have a more choices than just, if they've hurt me, I have to have them out of my life. This gives you more control. Now, do you think you can become a more forgiving person? Before you answer that question, I want to ask you a couple of things. I want to mention a couple of things, everybody. What forgiveness doesn't mean: number one, that you completely erased what happens and its damage. Often, when you're in an abusive relationship, this is the expectation, that you not only forgive, but that you pretend it never happened. Do not do this. It's completely unfair to you. It also doesn't mean you allow that person to keep hurting you, which is why one of the suggestions said, figure out how it happened, but don't stay in that place. Start to, put some protection around those vulnerabilities so you don't get in that position again. Don't allow that person to continue to hurt you. Number three, it does not mean that person should not face the full consequences of their actions. The people who knew about COVID and still made us take those vaccines, the people with the woke ideology knowing that what they were advocating was absolute nonsense and harmful nonsense and would cause people to lose their jobs because they didn't buy into it, they need to pay a price for that. People need to see that actions have consequences. Otherwise, you don't have a just society. Forgiving them does not mean they shouldn't pay for it. And also this, and you might notice, I do work with a lot of abusive relationships. Be very careful if you admit to someone that you forgive them. Keep in mind, you can forgive them and not tell them. The guy next door doesn't know I forgave him. As I said, it's probably Schadenfreude that I kind of like, oh, hi, how are you? And he's like, all uncomfortable. Okay, I am enjoying. But you don't have to tell somebody that you forgive them, because some people, if they are narcissists, if they are predators, if they are abusers, they will perceive, if they are users, they'll perceive your forgiveness as weakness, and it will make them focus on you to hurt you again, to use you again, to take advantage of you again. So you can forgive in your heart and mind and not even tell the person. But keep in mind again, it is a gift to yourself to forgive someone. Here is the Buddha saying, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I know so many people that are so furious about how they were treated when they were growing up. And I tell you that, look at me. I am a Black American woman born in the South. I have faced enormous racism. When I lived in Australia, I faced racism. Do I sit around worrying about it? No, because for every racist I met 25 really great people. And I'm not going to sit around worrying about it or feeling like a victim or feeling like I'm going to be rejected every time I talk to someone new, because that takes my joy away, takes my center away, takes my confidence away. Me forgiving those people, they had their own issues going on. Me forgiving those people and just fading them out. You know how I did with the resentment, how it was faded? That's what I've done with people who did that. Kind of faded them out of my life. And it's a gift to myself. And please know, you can forgive someone who never apologizes and admits they were wrong. I have met so many victims, survivors, who are caught up with their ex, insisting he has to admit he was wrong. He has to admit that he hurt me. Why are you giving him power over your life? If he's a narcissist, predator, sociopath, psychopath, whatever, he's never going to admit he's wrong. And in case you think I'm being sexist, if she's a narcissist, a predator, it can be either sex. If this person has these psychological issues, they will never admit they're wrong. And in fact, if you try to get them to admit it, they'll start bringing up anything you did wrong and exaggerating its importance. And the whole conversation gets taken away. And now you're feeling bad about anything you've done. And you walk away and say, they never did admit that what they did is wrong. Or they minimize it and say, oh, it was just a little bit wrong. It destroyed my life. They aren't going to admit that. Leave them to it. Let the forgiveness come out of your own heart and mind. Let the forgiveness be a gift you give to yourself, even if they don't deserve it, even if they never apologize. Do not fixate demanding admissions of guilt. It is a trap. And I've seen too many people caught up in it. Now, remember something. If you forgive somebody, there's no guarantee they won't do it again. In fact, if somebody gave in to all the COVID stuff, the woke stuff, Their way of thinking means they're probably vulnerable to other types of social manipulation. So when you're having relationships with them, when you're planning whether to let them in a really close circle in your circles of intimacy, keep in mind that there's a vulnerability there. Now I'm not saying you have to keep them in an outer circle, but before you let them in close, realize unless they do a lot of active work to bolster and remove their vulnerability to that caused them to hurt you the way they did, they are high risk. So you have to keep that in mind. You are responsible for that. So anybody, we still have some minutes left. Any forgiveness issues in your life? COVID, politics, woke ideology? I have all three. I had, as I said, I had somebody that was invited me to a conference, and then some guy that was at the conference got mad at me because he was extolling the virtues of the vaccine. And because I didn't say anything and jump in, which is the same thing I kept having a problem with when everybody was berating Trump, and I didn't join in with oh, Trump is the worst thing ever. I didn't say anything, but they knew what that meant. He got so angry. We were at a dinner for the speakers. He got got up, called me names, threw down the napkin, said, I'm not going to talk to some anti-vaxxer, walked away furious. And then the person who invited me got mad at me, and he hasn't treated me the same since. So anybody else?
You probably hear my dog in the background.
But anybody else going through that where COVID politics?
Dina, I've got to say that the what you're saying about the vulnerability to social manipulation, I think that point needs to be highlighted too during this process of us moving on and forgiving and pushing people in and out of different parts of the circle. I think finding people and understanding people's motivations and really checking their vulnerabilities is a really great way to ensure that what's happened to you you'll be guarded and protected from it happening again by recognizing people who are vulnerable to social manipulation, and then maybe pushing them out a little bit further and not bringing them in as close as they used to be. That point that you made about that type of person, it really resonated with me, because I think it's who we surround ourselves with in the future. It's the learnings that we have from the COVID Trump experience, surprising learnings for many of us. Some people we were looking at going, oh my God, really? That's your real personality type coming through. It was kind of hidden before COVID, but understanding that and really thinking about, well, are you going to be someone who is going to be continually jumping on bandwagons, virtue signaling, and being very, very vulnerable? That is probably not the sort of person that you want to have in your life. I think recognizing
not too close. You can have them in your life, but don't have them too close. And if you're
but pushing them, that's right. Have them in your life. Absolutely. Forgive. Absolutely. Love it all.
But just keep it further out. Don't prioritize them. Don't make yourself vulnerable to them.
Yes.
Keep your expectations realistic and work on yourself. See where you've been vulnerable. Because I can tell you now, 8 out of the 10 people that agree with me on a lot of the COVID politics and the majority of the more extreme woke ideology have still accepted a good deal of the woke ideology that is just as destructive as the stuff that comes later. It's like that foot in the door technique that we talk about, that, somebody tries to get you to make a small commitment. Can you just sign this petition? Can you just let us put this on your lawn? That's known as foot in the door. If they can get that small concession, they know they are exponentially more likely to get you to make a bigger commitment. Well, the same thing goes with woke ideology. Some of the earlier woke ideology, they were very careful how they indoctrinated people using unrealistic examples that made it look like you were a jerk for noticing that the examples were unrealistic, or that there was harm. And then the harm over time has become more and more overt. But a lot of people have been trained not to see it. Willful blindness is one of the things woke ideology has trained you to have. As we get into a more fact-based, evidence-based world, we're going to see more. So
Yes.
I want to say, if you have questions and comments, follow me on X. And by the way, you got a compliment, Melinda. Somebody likes your accent, says you have a cute accent.
Oh, that's great. I'll take it.
So I
Thank
want you
you.
to join me again next week as we continue on this. If you want more about forgiveness or anything else, we're going to be talking about family problems. We're going to be talking about what you want to come next. Send me, I'll put it on Daily Cloud underneath the Heart and Mind articles on Rumble. Let me know. And I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you, Melinda, for joining me. And I'll see you next week.
Bye.